But yeah, to get rid of that extra little bit of padding and margin that is like by default added by the browser, that browsers always have their own kind of invisible style sheets that they use anymore. They're called user agent style sheets, the user agent being the browser, whatever the user of the page is, the HTML document. Every browser does it a little differently. It's notoriously annoying. It's infamous because you forget about it, and then you make your design like, why is this not working? I told it to be 100%. There's this white little thing around the whole page, and that's where it comes from. So just always remember that when you set up a new document, when you're doing your CSS, at the very top of your CSS, do a body declaration and just say padding 0, margin 0. And what I usually do in the body is I set font family and font size. Right. All right, so that got that to snap good or well. One other thing was this wasn't explicit. I struggle. I don't really take points off for this. But one thing you could have done, I've had people do this in the past, and I don't really ever say this, but you can view the image. It downloads it for you, and then you open it up, and then you go view actual size. And this will show you what it should look like in your browser window. It's like how much space proportionally does like this hero image take up of the viewport height. You kind of see that? So I had a lot of people set this viewport height to be, where did that go? Kind of like you did here, where it's like 100% of the viewport height. So it's this full image, when in reality it's like 80%, because you still need to see that little bit, right? This is a part of contemporary design where hero images are really popular, like having an image that's huge when you show up because it looks good, right? This nice big open area that doesn't have much text and an interesting image. But you still need to suggest that there's something below it, because most browsers hide that scroll bar. They have it fade in and out if you're not using it, right? So you show a little bit of that bottom of whatever's coming next to just sort of entice people to scroll down. Sometimes you'll see it's like a little arrow. There'll be an arrow here pointing down, or it's like flashing or moving or something like that. Those are okay. Those are active elements to indicate that. And this is actually the next, when we finish up the style guide here this week or next week, the next thing we're going to do is take a look at contemporary design and break it down into its components and sections. And so this is a little bit of a foreshadowing for that, but it's also, when you're dealing with images or trying to recreate a design, it's always a good idea to download that design and try to see it in its actual size to get a sense of what that feels like. Plus, you can just like look at the proportion and be like, okay, this is more rectangular than it is square. So this is the same. Oops, not accessibility. Okay. So like, oh, what did you do? Oh, you made it an image. How did you? Oh, wow. That's interesting. Well, you got there. That's, How did you think to do position absolute?
When we got the wiki scrape back, I saw that other people had done it.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
It didn't work for a while.
So the way to do that, that is more robust than that, like that will probably break, it will cause bugs, is to, let me grab mine and open it up. There's my thing. Samples, midterm, there we go. Yeah. This isn't the one for your class. This is a different one, but it's the same structure. Okay. So it's to set up that section. So whatever that div is, like this section class hero, to give it a background image. So don't put the image in the HTML, put the image in the CSS. And what that does, and Cole, this is why yours weren't working. You didn't have
quotations or
the ellipses, the dot dot. that dot dot tells it to go out of the CSS folder and then look for an images folder. No, it's not, I mean, no, don't worry about it. So yeah, so I mean, this is a really clever solution that works pretty well. I mean, you know, everything scales and flows correctly. What happens with like mine? Let me look at it. You get this, and it still scales, but it does it a little differently. You can see the text sort of starts to break and get hidden at like about this point, right? So that's something you have to be aware of when you do stuff like this. Your dimensions might be a little more secure at this size than they would be at this size, although here's a pretty good. Yeah, so your stuff doesn't quite break until it gets even smaller. So, the nav bar that's up there at the top, this up here, you could have done this in a couple of different ways, but it's really just a, let's see, let's open that up. That's the first element inside that group. I'm just using that HTML5 tag, but this could be a div or anything. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a nav. It can be anything, right? These are all just divs. They could be an unordered list. They could be p tags, whatever. You should have made them links. They're not links in here, but they do say link, or at least they do in your image. So I did want them to be links as much as possible. So they should, you know, when you hover over them, they should have the little finger that pops up. Yeah.
One issue I run into when I do like the highlighting and underlining.
So that's easy to get rid of.
I think that's why I went with buttons. I can't make it look like this.
Right. So the way you do that, the way you get rid of those, let me change all these real quick. Oops. Let's do this. And then we'll do a href. Oh, come here. Okay, we'll come back here. Wow. Let's grab this. Oh, no, actually, just that. Okay, so we do that. And then if I refresh it, now you talk about like they do this and you can't get them to look right? So the way to fix that, let's just do div id nav menu. Whoa, hello. So div id nav menu, and then we'll target the actual anchor tag, so a. And you could Google this, right? Because I didn't mind if you guys Googled solutions during your midterm. Like that's part of web design, is just being like, I don't know how to do this, or I've forgotten how to do this, so I'm gonna have to find it again. I don't expect you guys to know everything about web design at the end of this class. There's no way you could ever retain that unless you're a savant of some sort. In which case, go test for your degree right now, because you'll be fine. But don't waste your time in this class. But Googling like removing the styling, okay, it's always referred to as styling. Googling that would just like remove styling from links, anchor tags, right? It's going to give you something like list style type none. It's not really a list though, so list style type none would work. But the one we really want is text decoration, and then none, and then you could do color white. Let me take this one off actually. So text decoration none, that takes the underlining off, and then color white just changes the color. Okay. Another thing you can do is they're purple, so the default styling is they'd be bright blue if they were unvisited links. Okay. And then they're purple if they're visited links. So if we do this, they're white now, right? They'd be purple if they were visited links. So we talked a little bit about pseudo classes. So a pseudo class for anchors is called visited. So you do that. And then you say color, and then whatever you want your color to be if it's visited. Yeah.
I was just going to say those words were spelled wrong.
Did it? Oh, you're right. You're right. Thank you.
That's
Oh, you need-
There we go. I was wondering why the color hadn't changed yet. That's one thing that's good about syntax highlighting is the color will tell you if it's wrong or it doesn't understand it. So visited, then we can just do like color, you know, something garish. I don't know. I'm in a pumpkin mood, I guess. It's like that. So then they're visited, that's a terrible color. Don't do that color. It's just a demo, Alex. It shouldn't really matter, but I do care. Something else that most people don't know, and I didn't expect you, and I don't take points off for this. Mac OS comes with this digital color meter app, okay, and it's great. It just finds the pixels that your cursor is hanging over, so you can grab colors from whatever you're looking at. Here's a little known fact. Look at your colors in sRGB. No, where is it? The generic. Yeah.
So there's no hex value for the.
Well, here, I'll show you how to find that hex value. A lot of times you can put in the hex value as those three numbers, so 26, 58, 46 would get it close to you. But you can stick in, you can just do RGB as well and get there. 101, 149, because obviously 101, 149, and 120 are not hex values, right? So like say I wanted that to be this green. Oh, I don't remember. What was that?
I used to always just take a screenshot of, like, press the screenshot button.
That works too. So 126, 165, 121. Come over here and just say RGB. Oops. This gives us our values. 126, 165, 121.
I can't remember how to do transparency.
126, 165, 121, and then this last one is your transparency. This is your alpha. All right, 1 being fully opaque. Oh, you guys can't really see that. I'm sorry. 1 being fully opaque, 0 being fully transparent. It kind of gives you a preview of what the color is going to look, sort of see through it, right? So if I change this to 1, then it'll do a solid green. Save that. And we got that green. Still, still not great, but it should probably just be white. Leave it at white. Okay. As far as like matching the fonts, I didn't do anything other than like a system sans serif. So I just expected you to match whether or not it was a serif or a sans serif. Okay. This is pretty good because I think what was the image you had to work with was this. So as long as you got things to kind of line up, I need to close a few things, I think. As long as you got things to kind of line up, I was pretty happy. You didn't here, right? Which, let's see, why didn't you? Because you justified by center. So you're justifying the items by the center, and this H4 and this div are not together in a group. Okay. If you put those together in a group, so instead of having them be separate like this, if you put these in a group and then they would stay aligned on the left, and then you would align that group to the center of its parent. So you just needed to group the H4 and that text box together.
So if I applied it to the first text box div up there, it wouldn't work.
Well, no. So what I'm saying is like this needs to be inside of another div. It's like div thing, right? So like it needs to be like this, and then this div ID like center thing, right? This div center thing should have the characteristics that you put on first text box. First text box should just have like size and that background color, so like all this stuff here. You don't need flex wrap. These three things here, you could take off of there and put it div center thing. Okay, and what that'll do is break it. What am I doing? Nope, I'm sorry. Don't change, actually don't put anything on there. They just need to be contained. And first text box should stay the way it was. There we go. And then, oh, right. Div ID center thing needs a width. And then you could just say like 50%. And adjust that until you get something that fits. Why are we not centering here? Display content center, align items center. That should be centering it. Let's take a look. You're obviously not centering. You are centering. Do you have a width? Oh, there we go. Do you have a width? You do have a width. That's what was doing that. Oh, okay. Take those things off. Center thing, and then make this. Could just not even like that. Make it like 50% or something. Now, if you wanted to make that a little bigger, you could add some padding. Oops. And that helps to kind of push those dimensions. One other thing is like on first text box, you gave it a width, but if you want to keep it square, you also need to define a height. And that was kind of the trick. So this 50% is 50% of the viewport width, right? And so whatever, like you could easily just change it to that and then make the height 50 VW, and then it will always be that square shape. You will always get that square shape, okay? If your height and your width are always the same dimension, same units, everything, it'll give you a square, right? And we use that viewport width in order to make sure that it stays consistent. Cool. Okay. Right. So yeah, that would like that sort of structure would fix like these, making these square, because like all of these little subsections were square, and then this one was smaller, but I think it's because you have your image in the HTML, probably. Yeah. So instead of doing the image in the HTML, oh wait, that's a different one. You would do your image in. Oh, I see. You would do your image as a background image on second text box. So like you could get rid of this part, take off that absolute, all that stuff. Which is, yes, which is what I did here on mine. So like this part is just a box, right? Does that make sense? Okay. I do have, where's my other one? That's what I did for you guys. It's 2019. I'm really like, I thought I stuck it in here. Well, maybe it's on my computer at home. Yeah, that's the style guide. Huh. Really thought I put your midterm in here. I built it on my computer at home, so I must have left it in a folder there and not in here. I don't see it. Okay, anyway. I don't know. Grace, do you have any other questions? Like a lot of your stuff would just be solved. I liked where that ended up, by the way. I just felt like this was a little too big. And then I think, well, yeah, it doesn't matter. On your image, the image you had to build yours from, that image is upside down. Some of this, like this text stuff, this is just making it transparent using that RGB method, only being applied to the text. That helps it be transparent. If you try to like, there is an opacity setting that you can also do instead of just the color, like instead of just adjusting color and doing it RGB alpha, you can do opacity on text and that will play with the opacity. But you have to specifically target the element, because if you try to do it to the parent, then this image would also be transparent. Everything inside the parent would be transparent, Sorry. Transparent parent. It wasn't even a pun, it was just terrible. So you just gotta be really careful how you use opacity. Usually you want to target it to the very specific thing that you're trying to make transparent. Does that make sense? Grace, do you have any other questions on yours? Okay. Chris, you want us to look at yours, Chris?
Sure.
Oh, you emailed it to me, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yes, but which one is it? This is why it's important for you guys to like. I know you probably did.
Midterm practice.
Bannister.
Sorry.
Where is it? This one? Is that yours?
It's based.
Oh, I thought I renamed it, but yeah, that's probably, I think it's it.
Okay. Yeah, this is why I ask you guys to like name your folders. All your working folders should always have your names on them.
Assignments too, but
Yeah, everything. Just because I open up 60 of them when I grade, and often my downloads folder says submission 1, submission 2, submission 3, submission 4, etc., etc. Toppage. All right. I love it. I hate when it does that. Okay. So this is pretty good.
Your first page of Caroline.
Is it?
And the last one.
Oh, they are. You stuck them in place, huh? So this is pretty close. You know, the main thing just being that these sections are square in the image and not square here.
my issue is that like on my browser was more square, but it's because I did like individual padding.
Huh. Oh, instead of setting like widths. Oh yeah, your width is at 100%. Oh, duck is the whole section. Duck text is 50. Oh, so you did margins, which distorts it. Yep.
Yeah.
So that was the thing I talked about with margins and paddings. Margin will distort the size. It pushes everything else away, right? And that will cause the size of your container to kind of morph and look a little weird. So you always want to kind of use padding. A good thing too is to, okay. Yeah, it's that same thing that we saw with Grace. Your H2 in this paragraph tag should be in another container. And that second container should have a width relative to the yellow square. And then just let the text be whatever it's going to be inside that container. Okay. Flexbox is a nesting game, right? It's a bunch of Matryoshka dolls, those Russian stacking dolls. You have to always think in terms of like, if I have two things that I want to be aligned together, then they probably need to be in a group relative to their parent, right? So just when you think that maybe you don't need to group things together, add another group. Just really that. It's like adding salt and pepper to a dish, right? You can get to a point where you've done too many, but it's difficult. I guess not with salt, but pepper. Anyway, yeah, so these two needed to be grouped and given a dimension that is then relative to this dimension. Image is good, though. Okay, so you didn't do it as a background, you just did it as content. That's the same function, pretty much. So there is actually a benefit to doing it this way, which I don't ever talk about in this class. How did you know to do it that way?
I think I did background image initially because that's what I'm comfortable with.
Right.
And some sort of like organization was not working. So I looked up different ways to do it. Content was one of them.
Oh, okay, cool. So one of the benefits of doing it with the content tag or setting is that you can change it dynamically through PHP. When you're creating dynamic web pages, like with WordPress or Drupal or Squarespace or something like that, like when you're using a script to create a HTML. One of the downsides is that it makes it difficult to debug. But when you're working at that level, you're not usually worried about that too much. So yeah, so this works out pretty well. The way I did it was background. There's a background tag, and then oops, this one. Nope, that is creases.
I think actually in my mind, I did content because I either do like background image and put the URL in the CSS, or I've done like the HTML tag image. And so like I needed some of like the functionality just out of the HTML tag image, but I didn't want the background image for some reason. So I just created a div with the image in it and did the content for CSS.
That works. It does make it a little difficult to like stick text inside of it.
Yeah.
But I know the duck didn't really have text in it. When I do background image, it's always because I'm sticking something inside of it that I need to overlay on the image. And then it's always a matter of like, you have to set position and you have to set cover, like size, right? And there's a few settings for size and a few settings for position that have different characteristics. So when I end up doing it, it just becomes habit. Like I don't want the container to conform to the image's size, and I don't want it to distort the image. So by doing background, you can like crop the image to a certain size. You can kind of move it around. The div acts as like a window or an image mask on top of the image, and you can really move that around. The other nice thing about it is, you know, you can do something like, let me find another one here. Square. I don't know what section this part is, but you could do something like border radius and then set it to 50%, which is going to give you a circle. I don't know what. So you can end up with shapes like that, right? Which is always fun. There are ways to do other shapes. You could round these corners. You can do triangles, stuff like that. Here's a tip, though. If you ever want to do an image as a triangle in a web page, do it in Photoshop. Crop it in Photoshop first. Don't try to do it in CSS. You can't. I mean, you can, but it's a pain in the ass, and it's not worth the effort. It really isn't. CSS is not great about drawing shapes. I did have this. Oh, I guess we didn't talk about that. This triangle here. This triangle here is not an actual shape, it's borders. Yeah, so this is a top right border, or a top border, a left border, and then my right border and my bottom border are made transparent. Because you can set border colors to be separate, and you can set the transparency then to be separate. So like border top, border right, border bottom, border left. If you Googled like CSS triangle, you would find, you find this tip at CSS Tricks. It's the very first thing. And it's exactly this. Border left, border right. You give it a size, type, and then you make it transparent. That's like an up arrow. So I just combined the down arrow and the right arrow to make that triangle.
And it's just a bunch of different angles that are
It's the edges. It's not even rectangles, right? It's the edges of a shape, and then you just make the pixel. You make the border size something gigantic, like 30 pixels. And then you set overflow to hidden. That helps because then it does anything that breaks the bounds of the container, like the dimensions you give it, is just not shown. Make sense? So it's a trick, and it was something I expected you guys to Google, but. You know, you get that, like I've had a couple people in the past get it right, like figure it out, and that's like an automatic A. You know, so it's because it takes some like sideways thinking, right? It's always, I like to throw little challenges in like that. I don't expect people to get it. I don't take off a ton of points if you don't get it. But if you do get it, it's like, it's a golden ticket. All right. I probably should have made that a circle, huh? I just thought about that. Would have made it smaller. Okay, let's see. That's Grace's. Where did yours go?
top left.
That's
Sorry, that's the image.
it's the one that looks just like the example. There we go. That's mine. it this one? Yeah, it was this one. Yeah, so I mean yours looks good. You got it. You know, it's just a matter of not using the margin for certain things. Yeah, so you did it here. That's good. What's that one? So the ice text. Yeah, it's just this margin. Gets you back there, and then having these two grouped together in one group and giving that a dimension, and then telling it to be in the center and center justified and aligned by the center would get it in the middle. And that would fix all that up. Did a good job on that. A little bit at the bottom, but that's probably just margin. Oh, margin bottom right here. Yeah. So just a little padding. Like if you just did padding instead. I just, oh no, it doesn't. Because you didn't, oh, well, it should have though. Padding here, take that off. Add more padding here. Just make this padding. You do something like ridiculous, like, well, let's do, so right. Oh, fine. You should be able to, anyway, whatever. Padding top, 12 rounds. Padding. Oh, Jesus, Alex. Sorry, I have this like the habit of the Command S and then the tab to the next thing. But yeah, so doing that padding there, and then you fixed it in place. You must have.
Yeah.
Okay.
I sort of got in the habit of doing that. I like throwing it.
Oh, here you go. Background attachment. Cool. I mean, that works. It wasn't what I did, but it works. You know, it's an interesting look. I like the.
I have one question.
Yeah.
I seem to have like padding for the whole page to the right. Is that because I didn't do the padding 0 at the beginning?
Do you?
Like if you scroll to the right, there's just white space.
Oh. Yeah, that's margin on something. Let's figure that
It
out.
took me so long to get rid of.
Yeah,
That's what I spent most of my time doing.
I definitely like wasted like.
It's margin on something. Is it this? 80 pixels. What are you? Huh. No. I don't think it's coming from the body.
I had to turn my margin off on my body.
Yeah, no. Something is set to be more than 100%. This is top text. So why doesn't this have a size? Yeah. So something is breaking that. Because when I set that to 100, it tries to be 100 of the visible page. Oh, interesting. Oh, I see what you did. Okay. I'm not sure. Yeah, there's definitely something there. Oh, no. Height is, let's do 80 viewport width. Now we do viewport height. That's really weird. I don't know.
That's struggling.
Yeah, that's super weird.
Is it the header?
No. I mean, I changed the header width to be 100%. Or 100% of the viewport. Margin left, margin right. But that's not it. It does make me want to like take everything apart. And it's something, there's something sneaky.
Well, the confusing part was like I did the inspect element and I was like looking at different parts of the page and then mousing over like the margin and the back and the border, and I was not getting highlights. So I was just so confused.
Yeah, it's caused by something else. I don't know. I really don't.
And I think I put it into like a CSS validator so that I can get any
Oh, you did.
warnings or errors.
Yeah. So one thing to do would just be to like comment out some stuff. Okay, so that stretches all the way through. So all the text stretches all the way through like it should. So then you do that, and then you come through and uncomment one thing at a time, and that will usually find it for you. So like, you know, take this part, move it down there. Got one all the way across. All the way across.
Wait, I think I added it.
No, the image went all the way across. Doesn't.
The scroll bar.
Oh, you did. Oh, there we go. You're right.
That's the betrayer.
Margin left. Okay, so let's just back that off. All right, that width is fine, but we're going to change header. Okay, header, that's good. Let's change this width to viewport. Okay. What did you have here, actually? I forgot. Let's go. Let's change this to viewport width. Okay. Why is your color? Oh, it's like a dark blue. I see.
Yeah, sorry.
It's like you can't tell from the background. Okay. Oops. I think it's probably. I'd say it's these, but I'm not sure. Yeah. Yeah. I hate margins. I really do. It's.
Now I do too.
I really hate them. Yeah, it's the margins right there.
Okay.
Yep. I almost never use margin left and right for that reason.
Okay.
Margin top and bottom, yes. Margin left and right, no. It's just, it's not a good thing. Also, one thing I rarely ever use is viewport height. I will try to usually only use viewport width. The reason being is when you do something like this where you're changing the height, you see how that changes that dimension and tries to keep it like that. It's not what I want to have happen when I open the inspector, or if someone makes their browser really, really small. See? Like, you just don't want that. So what I usually do is make this, I just figure out like, okay, my height is already, say, like 80% of my viewport width, so I'll just make it like 70% or something. You know, you just guesstimate and try to find like a dimension. So 70% of the viewport.
That's your width.
Oh, you're right. I always do width first, not height. So it's throwing me off. So 100.
Okay, so the height should just be.
Yes. Well, the very, very first container after your body, I always make viewport width. I always give it a percentage of viewport width. And then the children of that, I give percentages of a percentage because, or I give it percentage as a value. So that way it is a percentage of the parent, not a percentage of the page. But I want that very first parent after the body to be percentage of the page.
Okay.
Right? When whatever other siblings you have in there, so like on you, for this, it's like toppage, duck, grass, all these things, I would give viewport width units to.
Okay.
And then everything inside of them I would give percentage.
Okay.
That way they're conforming themselves to the browser, and then everything inside of them is conforming themselves to the parent.
Okay. I was just thinking like you only really need to viewport width in the very first one.
It's relative to the body, the root element.
Okay.
So that's already too big. Height 80. Why would it do that? 60 is still too big. 40, 50. Yeah. 1 to 2 is usually a pretty good ratio. Like that.
And then the text wouldn't wrap onto the next.
Shouldn't.
The next did.
The what now?
I realized like when you scale the page down,
Yeah.
the text like sometimes overlaps.
Yeah, like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what a breakpoint is for, or a media query, is to then change those dimensions so that doesn't happen, or change your font size. One thing you can do to kind of avoid that, where do we have it set? So like your font size you set here, instead of doing a rem, you can do these in a percentage of the viewport width, right? So you can do a little math to figure this out, or you can kind of just guesstimate it. I usually will do it here first, but like I'll come in and I'll say something like, what is 3% of the viewport width look? That's too small, right? 5% of the viewport width. That looks pretty good. Leave it at that, and then what happens is it scales down, right? It just scales with the browser. So, and if you do them all that way, the only one I wouldn't do that way is like body copy, right? The stuff like this that you want people to read should never be done that way because it'll just get super itty bitty. You should always leave it at whatever that one rem value is.
Okay.
And if you just don't declare a value for it, it'll be 1 rem by default. 1 rem is always, yeah, 16. I mean, it's whatever they set for the browser, right? It's generally by default 16 pixels, but some people up that to 20. Some people make it smaller. It just depends.
I was just thinking like when making stuff, the size.
16 pixels. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, and in tried and true fashion, we are moving at a snail's pace. That's okay. Jordan, are yours? Okay. Whoa, hello, hi. My mouse wheel is like dying.
Didn't I email it to you?
Yeah, I was just thinking, I was like, if you had
It
a
was
note.
taking so long to upload.
That was a lot of people, I noticed. I had over half of them submitted through email.
What was it? The image size?
No, I think pharmacy also does their midterms, and they do all their midterms through Blue Line, and their school's so huge that during midterms and finals, if you do it during that week, the internet always is just a snail for us. Because we use the same trunk that they use on this part of campus.
It definitely made
Oh, did you? Great.
Practical.
Gosh, I had so much open too. Yeah, I don't know where it is. Midterm GDE, here we go. Sorry, I also have a headache right now, so it's like hard for me to think. Because I was up until 1 grading, and then I started grading again at 8, and graded until like 11:55, which is my fault because I don't do a very good job of keeping up with grades during the semester. Because guess what? I hate it. Especially this semester because like everything is graded. The critiques that we do in class normally would be really smooth and like lots of feedback in class, but because we have to do them through Blue Line, yeah, I'm not happy about it. I don't feel like I'm doing a great job with that. Yes, we know there's a browser there, but just stay here. Oh yeah, so you had the padding issue too. So these links here.
Oh no, I think that it was like the last thing I did.
Mm-hmm.
I just could not.
Let's take a look. So just do that. Okay. And then what you can do here for this one, look at text line center kind of works. But then you didn't give it a width, which is why those dots go all the way across. So if you give it a width, like 80%, oh, is your image, why did it do that? Your image is right here. Why did you do that? Oh, because I accidentally, wait, what? Oh, width is down here. There we go. Width 100%. So yeah, so this width should be, oh, this is top. Oh, top section, because there's no div here. Sorry, that's what happened. So this actual element here should be, just give it an ID and then say width like, 75% or something. And then this would be margin 0 auto, that gets it in the middle. And then to move it away from those links, here's where you would actually add padding, or I'm sorry, margin. Margin top, 2 rem or something like that. Although it didn't do anything. Oh, because of that. Whoops. Fine. No? My brain doesn't work right now. What is going on? Whatever. Well, you could do that. Actually, no, you could do this. So you could do, okay, flex direction column. That's right. One thing you could do then is you could set this links to be, okay, line items, flex start. You can do this too. You can do a line self, flex start. Oh, it didn't move it to the top.
See, I think I tried to use a line items flex start, and that's what I thought, because I made it separate.
So that's right.
And that's what I tried to like smush it to the top.
Yeah, sure. I see that. Display content center. I mean that.
It's because I centered the whole thing, and then I tried to manipulate the links after.
Yeah, that gets it into the center. There is a way to, well, but there's not really a way to do that. Yeah, because you only have 2 things, you could snap this one to the top, as I've kind of done here.
Why wouldn't the like align self?
Well, it is working here. It is to the top, but like space between. Nope. Don't want height. Because we want height on here, which you have. Okay. And this one you don't have a width or a height attached to it. So it's trying to be super, super tall, right? So if you gave this, like, what is this? Well, we could do justify self flex end. Nope. What do you say about that? Oh, because it's not grids. That's right. Justify self is grid. Align self flex end. Nope. Sorry, let me think about this real quick. Yeah, it does that. That's fine. Size. End is. God, I can't think. How did I do it? Let's take a look at the other one. That's not mine. That's. Wait, what? That's yours. That's not mine. I was like, this doesn't look right. Okay. Project. Let's look at the other one. Oh, there it is. There we go. My subborder areas. Anyway, so what I did with that one is, so I have the section, and then the nav is a container, and this one is a container. And what did I do for this? So I don't have any flex turned on for this. I have flex for the content of this. And for this one, I'm just using margin on the top to push it down and get it roughly into the center. And that gets it lower. I think I just did it by.
I think I'm just like so used to using flex.
Right, and you should. One thing you could do is just not turn flex on for that. Gosh, I have too many windows open. It's driving me crazy. Oh,
the same thing.
Yeah, I see that. Let's come back. Oops. Let's come back here and turn this off. Beep. So for yours, that's Chris's. This one's yours. So for this one, I think what I would do is like turn all this off, keep that, set links. This needs a width that's not 100%, so something like 80 VW. This works for the stuff that's inside of it. Or actually, no, what you could do, I'm sorry, you could do, yes, I know, stop Siri, go away. You could do 100 VW, flex row, and then what you would do is align items, flex end, and that would, well, no, let's do this then. Let's go 50 VW. And then you could do something like, normally you would do this with position. I'm trying to think. I cannot think of it off the top of my head for some reason. Justify content. Justify content. Okay. Have you guys used grids yet?
No, but curious to see how they interact with flexing grid.
Mixing is interesting. You can do it, and it actually works pretty well. But they use different models, like conceptual models, for how you move stuff around and organize it and everything. So much so that I tend not to teach them concurrently until later. Like in interaction design, we get into it a little bit. God damn it! I know there's a way to do it because I did it. But why can't they? I know, but I'm just trying to like.
There's no way to do it. I just don't know which way.
Well, and it's dumb because like I rebuild this every single time. All right, I made the nav 90%. Right, because I brought it in from the middle. I made the logo. Yep, that's what I do for that. The menu is 40%. Oh, I think because there's two things in mine. I did space between.
Okay.
And that puts one on the left side and one on the right side. So for yours, yeah, that's yours. Oops, I don't think I have yours open. No, this is mine. Is this yours? This is mine. Oh god, I'm in a heart attack, you guys.
I'm sorry.
No, it's not your fault. Was yours called? No, yours was GDE, midterm GDE. There we go. So yeah, so you have these links here. So really, like, if this is,
Or have like two divs there with an R.
yeah, it's
Or,
like nav, right? And then inside this, have just like that empty div that's like ID logo. In here, then when you give this nav, yes, I would have to rewrite this, but you know, you give nav a width, like I did, 90% of its parent, and then margin 0 auto to center it. And then you could just turn on flex for this, and then justify content space between. What that does then is you give a width for links and a width for logo, and that justify space between takes those two widths, subtracts it from that 90% and puts that in between them, and so it just shoves the logo to the left and the links to the right. All right. So yeah, your image here got a little distorted. Do you have this set as a background? Okay. Oh, object fit. So these should be background fit, background. Oh yeah, background size. So here it should just be like cover or contained. And then you could do contain, no repeat. Problem with that is it's not a square image. So you do cover, and then you do background position, and you do center. Or top or bottom or left or right 20 pixels, you know, whatever. You can. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. Here, you just want to add more space around your text. So like whatever this is, and then say padding 3 rem. It didn't. You have you did set a height for that. I wouldn't necessarily set a height for that because then you run into this issue. So if you take that height off, you need a width though. And then, well, width, and then you take the group and use flex to get it, flex justify content center and align item center, and that gets it in the middle. That padding will help push and give you height though. Okay. Same, this is distorted as well, right? This one looks okay. And this.
Figure out what the.
Yeah.
Did you send serif for that?
I think I just did a serif. Yeah. I think it was just a. I'll have to double check. I didn't take points off for that. Like you just matched the, you know.
I just was like,
Yeah, and that was fine. That was fine. I didn't take points off for any of that. Yeah. All right. Do you have any other questions about yours? I don't know what's going on here. Anna, you want to see yours? Oh, Katie, I'm sorry. Anna doesn't want to see hers. Oh, Anna's your roommate. Okay. Evan's not here. Why did she come to class?
I don't know where she.
Does she ever? You don't know where she is?
Well, I mean, she's hopefully at home, I guess.
Okay, all right. You've seen her today, though, right? Like you've seen her in the last few days?
Yes, I saw her yesterday.
Oh, okay, all right. So she's alive. Okay. Did you?
Mine should be in there.
Okay, it is. Good.
I just had a lot of trouble with background images.
Seems to be a theme. Okay. So it's going to be a really exciting class recording for everyone. Let's see.
I'm gonna try out the next project.
Today?
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I was going to start it on Thursday. I thought we would do like this. I'm doing the review for you guys today. You mean the one you're currently working on, or?
Well, is the next one due on Wednesday?
I think it's due Thursday, right?
The next.
Yeah. You want to talk about that?
Yeah.
What, before you turn it in for critique?
Yes.
Okay.
I just had a question about like the layout portion.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, the layouts portion you don't have to do. That's in the class recording.
Oh, really?
I think so. Yeah, it should be in the class
Oh, I
recording.
thought it. Okay.
The layout examples.
Yes.
Yeah, we're not doing that yet.
I
Shoot.
thought it was stuff like we're doing that.
Oh, you know what? Yeah. Let me
Wait, so what's due on Thursday is not what was in that question? Right.
No, it is.
Okay.
The elements.
It's the elements, not the layouts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I said that in the recording, but maybe I
I
didn't.
must have missed.
No, I may not have. I know I thought it. Okay. So yeah, so you said you had problems with the background images and stuff.
I guess margin.
Ah. So this should be 0, 0 auto. Try to take padding off. Again with the padding 0, margin 0, snaps all that. This is probably caused from some margin on this text. Yep, so that's caused by margin on the text. You need to, when you do background images like that, you need to give a class full. You need to also declare a height. So 50 VW. But you should like, so this you put on the section and then you have, oh, right. So you just need then background size, and this should be like cover and contain. I always forget. How did you? Oh, let me see. Full width. I can't type fast enough today. Apparently.
Are you typing too fast?
Some of it's that. Oh. It's in your. Oh.
Yeah, I did.
Oh. That's a no-no. That's a big no-no. So I'll say this again. I'm just going to reiterate it. Never ever put CSS in your HTML because it causes things like that. So that can go up here. So you could stick that here. I mean, your CSS is right. You're doing the right thing. Just don't put it in your HTML. Because it's in the wrong place, and then it can cause issues, and then when I'm trying to debug, it's kind of not where it should be. Also, this link right here doesn't work for the CSS. It did for the... I was like, how is that link working? It's because it was in the HTML. Then we do position. Center, we'll start with size. Fun thing about doing an atom is like I can literally just do like BGSC or SZ, and it's like background size. Just hit enter. And then cover, which I don't think it's cover. Yeah, so why, sir, are you breaking like that? Because you didn't actually reload. Well, Oh, I didn't save my HTML, that's why. Okay, so that clearly didn't work. like it should have. It's not there. There we go. Why does it think it's still there? Because it's dumb. It still thinks it's there. There we go. I don't know why it still thought it was there. That was really weird. Okay, so that's how you get that image in there, right? And then it's just a matter of using flex to move this down and do that. Interesting. Probably because you did the same thing down here.
Yeah.
Oh, you have the image in here. I see. This should just be an image, background image on duck.
Okay.
Yeah, same thing here. So it's just, a matter of changing those and fixing those. Okay. Otherwise, I mean, you got close-ish, right, with the margins and the padding stuff just being fixed. The biggest issue. Oh, I have to take this off. It hurts my jaw. That's why I have a headache. I take that off, I immediately feel better.
Yeah, it pulls in my ears.
Yeah, I don't feel the ears so much. It's my jaw. It's because I have to talk the whole time. The biggest thing to take away, to remember when you're building a web page with Flex is, well, CSS is in your CSS file, always, never in your HTML. Try to keep your structure really simple, your HTML structure. And then if you want to move two things that are separate, like an H2 and a paragraph tag, if you want to move them together and keep them aligned, put them in a group. Group them with a div, and then move that div around. Don't move those guys around. Move the div around. If you want to make squares, make sure your width and your height are always the same units, same values. If you're using Flex, everything that is subjected to that Flex, okay, everything that has a parent that has Flex turned on, needs to have a width declared. Because that width, declaring that width, makes it easier for it to define its space on the page and for you to be able to move it around. Cool. Okay. This one was tricky because none of the images were actually in the HTML. They were background images. And I know we've done a lot of stuff about responsive images and everything. Half of the goal of this assignment was to see if you guys could adapt to a tricky situation and think on your feet a little bit, which is what you have to do with web design constantly, to find your own way to make something work, right? And not just remember exactly what I told you to do. Right? It's why this is always harder than doing a project in class, because in a project in class, I'm like, okay, here's how you do it this way. You learn through doing it, right? With the midterm, it's like, here's a puzzle, figure out how to make it or create it or finish it. Okay. I do grade with that in mind. So grades are not as low as maybe people feared, I hope, right? I will say that your class did historically score higher than other classes. So there's that. And that's not because it's COVID or anything like that. No. If anything, COVID makes me grumpier, which makes me a more strict grader, because I'm just like listening to Rage Against the Machine, grading your guys' stuff, which is what I was doing this morning, but not because I was mad at you guys. I was mad at the machine. So don't feel bad if you're like, this was stupid and I don't know what happened. It's really, really difficult. It was supposed to be really, really difficult. You're not losing an obscene amount of points for any particular reason. Like, it's just because it was difficult, right? It was like, I just wanted to see what would happen if I threw you guys into the deep end of it. Okay? Anyway. Okay, do you want to talk about, did we cover everybody's? Felt like we did.
You didn't talk about mine up there, but like we talked about mine.
Yeah, it was just your image links. Otherwise, yours was good. Yeah, no, you figured it out. Okay. I was really bummed that nobody figured out the triangle. Nobody figured out the triangle this year. Nobody. I didn't have anybody even like attempt it. I think everyone was like, no.
I almost
Is that what? Is that your,
Oh, yeah,
is that your response?
I was like, I have no idea. I was like, I'll do it last if I have time.
Nice.
And that's why I did the links last year because I was like, just gonna ignore they're there.
Right.
I
That's a pretty.
wasted 15 minutes trying to get rid of that right.
Yeah.
Oh
white
yeah,
space,
sure.
So I got-
Sure. Yeah.
I was gonna do it. I was gonna like draw an Illustrator and export it as an SVG, and then like.
I've had people do that. I've had people do, and I take it because I don't. It doesn't care how you do it, right? It's just that it gets there. Yeah. I've had people do that before too. Yep.
I mean, like, because I've done SVG elements before.
Yeah.
In my CSC 121 class, we used SVGs in my website.
Cool.
Because we had to.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. SVGs are really good for like doing complex shapes and masks. The real fun thing is sometimes you'll see something like this, or you'll see like kind of a really irregular shape, but then there's like a parallaxed image underneath it. And you're like, what did they do? And it's an SVG. They're using an SVG to define the div shape, and then they're doing a background image and fixing it in place like you did for yours, right? Fixing that background image in place so that SVG, that irregular SVG just moves across it. So, but it's so fun because, even I still look at it and I'm like, I mean, I know how they do it, and it's like, oh, that's a nice effect because you don't see it often. Those irregular shapes are difficult, right? People don't want to waste their time trying to do them. So you can draw like an irregular shape in Illustrator, export that as an SVG and load it, and then just give that SVG a background image. And it creates a similar effect. So. Okay, let's talk then about other things. All right. Let us look. Excuse me. I made a poor choice and had McDonald's for lunch. It's a very poor choice. Just a Big Mac. Oh yeah, critique is on Thursday, right? Yeah, Thursday.
Yeah.
For the part 2 of the style guide. So part 2 of the style guide, that's the elements. Oh, I do have layout patterns on here. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and take these off. Shoot. I'll just put ignore layouts. Do you think that's gonna be big enough? I guarantee someone's gonna not see it.
No, it's 2 lines. Bumps it down even further.
I know. There we go.
Extra bold.
That'll make it bigger again.
There we go. The boldest weight there is.
Have it even.
Have what?
Even padding. All about padding.
It's all about the padding. You're right. All right. So ignore the layouts. Just do the elements. So just do this first part up to the up to here. Actually, I can crop this image too.
Anyone even need to beautiful ignore the layouts thing?
Yeah, because you can still download it. Okay. Well, I can crop the image. So if you already did some layouts, I apologize. We haven't gotten there yet. Mostly because we did midterms had to get spread out over to a whole week. Yeah, not fun, but All right, does that kind of even make it clear?
So, what's the difference between these buttons and the buttons that we did in the first part? You had buttons there. Like, what are those buttons?
Oh, I did button text. These are the shapes and sizes and colors and stuff. So normally when you do a style guide, Style guides vary and differ quite a bit, but one of the things they'll always have is they'll have a button component, and it's how you would make a button look on your page at various sizes. So it's how you would do like a ghost button, which is the button with the transparent fill and then a border in the text. That's a ghost button. And then your solid buttons. The only difference is like this has an outline, whereas the other one is just like the text. Yeah.
Do you want us to have those miscellaneous buttons? I was looking at
the radio and the check and
I was looking at like the button detail, button on hover, button on press, sizing.
Throw a couple in there. They don't have to be exactly what I have. Yeah. Main thing is that we will put these in a web page, like we did the first part. So we're going to learn how to actually style these elements to get them. The idea is I want you guys to have experience not only drawing these things out and just visually designing web pages and knowing what to do there, but also to be able to build some of these in HTML and CSS. I'm not saying everyone will always be both a developer and a designer, because those are two different hats, right? Web developer, web designer. But the designer is a stronger designer if they're able to talk to a developer and specifically say, this is what it should look like, right? And here's the actual code for it. Fit this into whatever your framework or platform you're using, okay? The programmer, if you think you're going to be a web programmer or web developer, it's not really programming, it's developing. Programming is different. If you're going to be a web developer, then you're a stronger developer if you're able to look at a design and be able to express it in terms of pixels and colors and values and stuff like that, and then understand why it's that way, and not just make it the way you think it should be made, which happens a lot with developers. Right? Designers will hand them a design, and if they are not somewhat design fluent, like they don't understand the concepts of composition and negative space and breathing and colors and stuff like that, they'll just dismiss it and make it whatever way is most efficient for them. It happens a ton. I have students that do this, and it drives me crazy. Right? So it's good to have exposure to both sides of it. Okay? And then web programming is its own thing. Not its own thing, but you have developers. If it was a Venn diagram, or if it was a spectrum of people on the spectrum, no, I'm not gonna make that generalization. If it was a spectrum of like, what do we want to say? Sensitive to aesthetics and not sensitive to aesthetics. You would hopefully have designers over here, right? Developers somewhere in the middle, and programmers way over here on the left.
That means we're developers. We take both classes.
Yes. Yes, I agree. And being a designer, or developer, or programmer depends on where you fall, like where you yourself are most comfortable, right? I'm comfortable in that developer role, but maybe a little bit closer to the designer role. Like I enjoy the design aspect of it more, but I can build them and know how to make them work. Whereas people that don't really want to worry about how they look, right? They just want to do like the functionality of it, make sure it works correctly. There are more programmers, and they fall closer to the programmer side of it. And people that are comfortable with both are developers, and people that don't care how it gets put together but know how to make something look nice, they're designers. And that's why they have tools like Adobe XD, right? That's for a designer. Browser and Atom is for developers. And then something like, I don't know, building databases and never opening up your browser to you still open up your browser, but not really caring that the default styles are crap. Or you use tables in your website. That makes you sorry. That's my once a class subtle dig at Dr. Reed. That puts you over on the programmer side pretty heavily, which he would be happy to be over there. Like that, he loves that area. That's what he likes. So yeah, make sense? Okay, cool. Are there any other questions about what's due for the critique? No? Okay. Let me think real quick.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah, going through the table. I'm gonna bounce off this table. No, you're not. No, you're not. We will have another reading assignment. I swear, I know I say that every week. Every week, you don't get it, but you will get it on Thursday. It's pretty much done. I made the brilliant decision. Actually, I'm gonna stop recording.